Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. The Grant. My name is Niels Tudor Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. The Grant is an independent podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. Don't forget that there's a The Grant mock-up for the best comment, question, or shared insights on the Communication Strategies series. Check out my new short series on communication strategy for details on thegrant.eu. Approaching the ERC funding scheme not only includes preparing a proposal. If your proposal is selected for the next selection stage, you're invited for an interview in front of a panel. This ERC interview naturally is of massive importance in order to land the ERC grant. Some time ago, a listener requested that I would record an episode zooming in on the interview and how to approach it. So, here it is. Of course, I have reached out to an experienced expert to take us all through the details. Yasmin Wachs, senior consultant at Enspire Science, has been supporting researchers for a decade on how to approach the interview. This is a double episode, and last week in the first half we focused on the preparation. In this second half we zoom in on the interview itself and what happens after the interview. Please enjoy. Grant. Now, let's move on to the next block. That's the interview itself. Now, we've been moving around what it actually is and what actually happens. So, we know you shared with us, Yasmin, it's online. So,
Yes.
you get a link naturally to the online, and then can you take us through?
Yes. So, right. So they use the WebEx conferencing system. You're supposed to join in a given time. Then you enter this waiting room.
Yeah.
We know from our clients that the waiting can sometimes be quite long. There can be delays. So you need to prepare for that as well. I've heard of instances in which the delay was even 40 minutes. So it's not negligible or not necessarily very short.
Okay, but
so
this
you need to be prepared for that psychologically.
Yeah, this is an important information, right? Because you don't take it as an anxiety or stress. Take it as an opportunity, right? So be prepared, super prepared when you log in, and then if you see, if you say, okay, now I'm waiting, then you have another chance to just look through, because of course you don't know when they will pop up. But
yes.
if you can see, okay, now it's 5 minutes, now it's 10 minutes, well, then
Yes. So you have some time to breathe, calm yourself. Once the panelists are ready, then you're moved into the session. The panelists are all, or at least supposed to be sitting in the same room. We know that in some cases some panelists join remotely, but they are supposed to be sitting in the same room. Then the chair presents you. Then you have some time to adjust your presentation. When it's in full screen, they start timing you, and you're supposed to start presenting your presentation. It's important to say that once they start the clock, timing is very, very, very strict.
Okay.
They're not going to allow any extensions beyond the time given, for the sake of fairness. Right? Everybody gets the same time. The competition there is between people in the same panel. Everybody in that panel got exactly the same time. Yeah. But the clock starts when you are prepared to start your presentation, right? So if in cases where I've also heard that there were some technical difficulties, they didn't start the clock until the presentation is in full screen and you're ready to start.
Okay, good. Important information.
Then you run for the time given. Just popping back to the preparation. When you rehearse, it's extremely important to make sure you build a narrative and a presentation that you are prepared to do comfortably within the given time. Don't try to push more information and wish and hope that it will fit in. When you rehearse, you really need to make sure that you're able to do it in this given time, because otherwise they're going to stop you in the middle of a sentence, and that would, I think, not feel very well and also not reflect very well on how the panel sees and understands your project. So it's really important to get this through comfortably and to get the take-home message through to the panelists, and breathe and smile and say thank you for this opportunity. And now let's. I'll be happy to discuss your questions. Be
polite, for Christ's sake.
Yes. Be friendly. Be polite. Be human. I mean, bring yourself to the interview. They're expecting to get to know you at least to some extent, and to understand who stands behind this written application.
Yeah. So conservative time management.
Yes.
Be kind.
Okay. And once the time is over and you've hopefully managed to get through this perfect narrative and presentation that you've prepared, they start asking you questions. Some of the questions are from the panelists that are sitting there, but some questions are from external experts that have read the proposal and sent requests for clarification. So some of the questions will be just read out to you.
How many why do I have the figure 40 in my head?
40?
Of the reviewers of each proposal when you send...
No.
Forget what I said.
That's way too much. No, but we have seen evaluation summary reports, which are the outcome of the whole process, with as much as 10 reviewers.
Okay, I remember. The session with Joran, but
I might have maybe seen one or two with more than 10, but that's an extreme.
Yeah.
So of course it's not if these are people that are specifically selected per proposal as experts in your field, and they might ask you for. They might extend a request for more information through to the panel, and the panel is asking you to do that in the interview. I think another tip here is to practice on answering concisely. The panelists are expecting to run through a list of questions. So probably they won't get through all the questions. I mean, sometimes they have questions with but not enough time. When you answer, the answers need to be comprehensive, but precise, but not too long. Don't start a discussion, a very long discussion for on each question, simply because they might become impatient because they want to move on to the next question. We want to keep them comfortable and satisfied as much as possible.
Yeah. Now, we already sort of gave these are strategies here also to manage stress. Because there will be stress, there will be anxiety.
Yes. I think maybe a key message in this context is that almost all the feedback that we got from clients in the past 2 years, I mean, of course, one or two would be maybe extraordinary, but I think across the board we're seeing that people are saying panelists are very friendly and the atmosphere is supportive, engaging. They're interested in hearing what I have to say. So, of course, some panelists might be less pleasant than others. Maybe some questions might be more provocative or might put you in some discomfort, but it's as a whole, the experience is friendly. People are on your side. They want you to succeed. They want you to get a fair chance to present your project. So keep that in mind. I think that also helps in coping with the stress. You're going to meet people that are on your side. They're scientists like you, and they are excited about cool science. So the atmosphere is in I think almost all cases, at least in the last 2 years, people are saying it's a nice experience. It's a friendly experience.
It's important, right? Because in the research world, especially university world, everybody knows that internal fights in research areas and so on, it's almost a universal thing. That you always have fights on discourses, on research approaches, and so on and so forth that can be fierce. And this is the baseline for all people in the research world that are doing careers that they time and again run into opponents or people who think that it's the wrong way that they have chosen the research approach for their path. And so that would be probably in the back, that would be a baseline for many that would approach this. They would think, oh, what if I meet one that really wants to bring me down within my field? So this is an important information. Yeah. It's
yes.
This is the real world. This is how research world is. So it's important for my dear listeners out there that what Yasmin here is sharing with us, it's important. So relax, lower the shoulders, prepare yourself, of course, but nobody is going to give you a knee tackle.
Yes, at least not in an unpleasant way, right? You should expect hard questions on your science.
Sure.
But in most cases, it's not going to be an unpleasant or confrontational discussion. Of course, we have heard of those as well. But again, I must say these were a few years back. I mean, we have had instances in which people came back after visiting Brussels when their interview was live in Brussels. People that came back and said it was traumatic or it was very, very, really unpleasant. But then again, I must say that in recent years, almost all the people that we asked said it was a positive experience. At least the environment, the atmosphere was supportive. So it's prepare for hard questions and to defend your science. And of course, if people believe, or if there's going to be a panelist that is a scientific opponent or someone who believes in a different dogma than you, there might be some scientific back and forth, let's say, but I don't think it's going to be, or at least they're aiming to keep the atmosphere as friendly as possible. Of course, realizing that people are very stressed, right? Not the scientific discussion has its place and it needs to be there, but when at least to the extent possible, eliminate the stress in this discussion, and to get the person to get to the to answering the scientific questions as best as they can.
Maybe the online setup is for the advantage here.
Yes,
yeah,
it might be.
Because I can easily imagine if you come in front of a panel that is not friendly, or that is not a nice experience, that you travel, you have you're stressed, this is important for your research career, and then you come in front of 3 persons physical, like in person, and they threat you. And then you have to go back to wherever you live, and of course that's not a nice experience here. It's it's online that we all been doing through COVID. We're used to it.
Yes.
So you sit in your home environment, in your office environment that you're used to, and focus is not on how you appear. So to say, of course, you need to wear a shirt or nice clothes. Of course, you need to appear nice, but it's not this. It's easier to put yourself in a comfortable setting, so to say, and setting that you know. Yeah. To sit and have things. So yeah, it's
Yes.
Was that is that the interview itself? Is there anything else?
No, I mean, then after once the time is up, and I mean there is a time frame per applicant. So once the time is up for the questions, they would greet you nicely, and you will go offline and wait for the outcome.
Do they do that right away?
No. I mean, you get the evaluation summary report eventually, or a notification that you've been selected for funding, and that happens. I mean, you have to wait patiently. That does not happen directly after the interview.
So let's just finish off the block of the interview. So so that's it. That's you say thanks, and then you log off, and then that's it. So next block after the interview. So you just summed it up. So how long does it take for them to get back normally?
So it depends. I mean, sometimes they surprise with notifications that are sooner than expected.
On the spot, but you got the funding.
You were amazing. No, so that the time frame for each call is published on the ERC website. So just as an example, I'm looking now at the Consolidator grant, the 2025 Consolidator grant, which are going to submit in 2 weeks. So the deadline is 14th of January. The invitation to the interviews are sent out, or going to be sent out, in June. So about 5-6 months. The results of step 1 for people that are not retained are in parallel. The interviews would be held on September, October, and the final results would be around December 2025. So the interviews are September, October. Results are 1.5-2 months after that. And again, sometimes we're surprised and get the results sooner. But that's the general time frame.
Okay.
Yes. So okay.
That's like it is with funding. You all know that.
Yes.
Listeners out there.
You need to wait.
Yeah, it's like this.
So people that are selected for funding would get kind of a preliminary notice, an email that they've been favorably ranked, and it's still not final, and don't tell anybody about it. Keep it confidential. But just so you know, you're highly ranked, or probably gonna get it. And eventually everybody gets the evaluation summary report, which concludes the written feedback from everybody that read your proposal. In some cases, you can understand from the feedback what impact the interview had on the evaluation. But not in all cases. Sometimes it's hard to read between the lines which part of the feedback was based on the written application, and which, if at all, the interview added to that feedback. So in the summary of the panel summary, in the first page, there is a template sentence that the interview contributed greatly to assessing the application. Yeah. But once you go down to the written application, it's hard to say which of the reviewers were external reviewers that were remote. And if at all there is feedback that was amended after the interview, we don't know. But I have seen cases where some applicants said, "Well, yes, that question was they asked me about that in the interview," or and then you can assess whether maybe. Yes, they asked about that because there was an open question, there was something that was uncertain. And if you got it, you probably did answer that properly. Or if you didn't get it, maybe that was the reason, maybe it was another reason. But in some cases, it's a guessing game, but in some cases, that's helpful to understand what went on there and to assess whether to reapply, what to change when you reapply.
Okay, so here we have to distinguish probably in this conversation about the ones that do get the grant and the ones that do not get the grant. Because naturally, right. The ones that do not get the grant, they would like for next time they apply to learn.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, if you can't distinguish what was, if it was the proposal or if it was the interview, but how do you support your researchers, supporting them with this when they don't get it, and how to evaluate to improve for next time?
Right. So first of all, it's important to say that according to the current regulations or structure of the ERC, once you've passed to the second stage and invited to the interview, you are eligible to reapply.
Mm-hmm.
So no restrictions apply to you on resubmission. In most cases, putting aside some personal considerations, right? If you've got tons of other grants and you don't have time for it, or things have changed for you in your career, our recommendation is to positively consider to reapply. Once that decision has been made, then we can sit together with the applicant and read the ESR and see which of the parts of the ESR are things that we need to take into consideration and change, which are nice to have and which are maybe technical or things that we can disregard or maybe not necessarily conform to.
Mm-hmm. But is there any, because if you get the grant, it's that's a yoo-hoo. So this section on post-interview, that's just what we just talked about. It's the most important thing. What you do for your next strategies for. So what do you recommend people? So you say if they've been through the interview, there are no restrictions.
There are not technical restrictions on the side of the ERC. So once a proposal is passed to the second stage or gets an A, but not invited, they are eligible to reapply straight away.
Okay, that's the most important information.
But you need to decide for yourself if this is the right thing to do. Assess whether next year or in the next relevant deadline for you, is this the research that you want to do? Is it still high risk? Is it still groundbreaking as it was for this deadline? Or maybe things have moved along and maybe you need to reassess the concept of your project or the framing of what you want to propose. Of course, the state of the art, more people have published. You need to refer to that to see what's going on in your field. You need to update your achievements, your CV, your track record. So there's a lot to assess when thinking of reapply, but on thinking of reapplying. But it is something. I mean, given that everything is still optimal for you, I think it's important to try.
Sure. If you reach this stage, it became this far. It means that it's a prime research that you're doing. So you're just an hair width away from getting. So it's
Yes. It's also important to maybe a piece of or something that the listeners should know, that there are proposals that get A but are not funded because there isn't sufficient funds for funding all the excellent excellent proposals in a given panel. So this is a very unfortunate outcome, right? Because they say, yes, you're excellent, but we didn't have enough funds, or they were.
It's a horrible one.
It's a horrible one, and I've assisted an applicant who got that twice in sequential deadlines. It's very frustrating, but it's important to note that this really means the panelists believe in your application. They really say this is an excellent proposal, and we would have funded it, but several other applications ranked slightly higher than this, and we didn't have enough budget.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know what? It's public funding. It's like this. I think that you should have this as a baseline perception when you enter the game of writing public proposals for public funding. This is what happens. It's taxpayers' money, and not everybody gets, even though it's good enough, and so on and so forth. There are some constraints. Of course, it's
not unlimited.
Of course, extremely frustrating. So I would understand very, very well any researcher that would be it's excellent what you do. You need funding, but we don't have it. If it's that good, you will get funding.
Eventually. Yes. Just kind of closing the loop on something we discussed earlier, that the panel members alternate from year to year. So if you get a chance to resubmit straight away, you will be met with other reviewers. So there's a good and bad side to that. First of all, if one panel really liked it, the next panel might not. That's a possibility. You might get a significantly different score when you reapply, even without changing a lot. But it might be that there was one panelist who slightly evaluated you lower, and in the new setting, you would be ranked high enough to get it. So it's a thing to consider when reapplying, to go back to the panel member database and reassess that. Who are the people that are going to see me this year versus the ones that saw me last year?
It's also classical EU funding frustration. You resubmit and you do everything they said, and and then you have a new evaluation panel, and this is human psychology also. It's human beings. It's not machines. So it's I've been there myself. We all been there who've been writing proposals that then you adjust, and then a new thing pops up. Then
Yes. That's part of the reason where when assessing an ESR, you don't want to conform to every word written there. Stay true to yourself and to your science and what you believe in. Because you're not answering to a given panel that are giving you a criticism, and you're saying, okay, I'll fix that and I'll get it. The evaluation is completely independent each time. It's an independent exercise. Each time you submit, the people are going to be different. The time has changed. The time has passed. The state of the art has changed. So it's not going to be a quick fix and then you get it. You're competing again. That's something to keep in mind.
That's the thing. Yeah, and it's a difficult mental exercise to put yourself back at the baseline of the race when you think you are a horse head ahead,
Yeah.
because you've been.
Yes, that's true.
But yes, indeed, that's correct. We're actually moving into the recommendation section here, so let's just we're moving towards the end of this episode. But recommendations, we're actually just given some. But are there some key takeaways we should sum up?
I've mentioned this before, but indeed, this if there is
fine.
one take-home message from this episode is practice. Practice, practice, practice. Take enough time to prepare for this interview. Practice. Practice is the key take-home message from me. Take enough time to prepare. This is not a regular talk in a in a conference or a lesson that you're giving. This is an extremely critical part of the ERC evaluation. So take time to think, to conceptualize your narrative, to think of questions and how you would like to answer them precisely and accurately and succinctly. Ask people to read your application and to provoke you with questions.
Get help. And many universities or research organizations have got cigar boxes with money to buy support from external consultants like yourself. So, and you would know that yourself.
Yes.
So you will know if you have. But otherwise, check out Enspire Science website for their knowledge data. The NCPs, you can always check your NCPs. There might be good NCPs.
NCPs, internal resources in your university, and on top of that, get friends, get colleagues to listen to you and present and practice and try to simulate the same conditions. Try to practice in the same room that you'll be sitting during the interview, the same computer, the same microphone. Test all those technical aspects that hopefully will not surprise you or fail you during the interview.
Yeah, and maybe, of course, one of the first things you should also do is to check, exchange with people who have themselves tried it in your research organization.
True, yes. Of course, if you organize a mock interview, try to get people with ERC experience. Yeah. Either people who are maybe you have panel members or past panel members in your institution that could lend you some of their time. Just a half an hour or an hour would do to listen to you present and or go through your slides and to assess whether you're nailing it or if they have any advice on what you can add or remove.
Yeah. Don't use the ones that failed. That was a joke.
Also, if you know they or suspect they're going to participate as panel members this year, don't contact them, because or at least do that very, very carefully before asking them specific questions on your project. Just make sure that they're not going to participate this year as panel members, because
conflict of interest.
Directly contacting a panelist can cause a technical disqualification. We don't want that.
No, that would be silly. The Grand. All right, Yasmin, we almost finished with this conversation. Now, my segment that I have in all my episodes, the toughest challenge. And I simply put here the toughest challenge in relation to the ERC interview. So that's quite broadly. But do you have any? What would you say considering the toughest part of preparing for this?
So I thought of two things.
Yeah.
First is the counterintuitiveness of building a presentation that is so short and needs to convey so much. I think this is something most researchers are not used to and would have a hard time not they would have to fight the urge to try to ram in all the information that they can into the presentation, and result in either being very confusing and kind of overwhelming with detail that the panelists cannot comprehend in such a short time, or resulting in a narrative that would be impossible to go through in the given time. And then you have either you're going to be stopped in the middle, or be very, very stressed, or talk too fast. And so accept the fact that you're not gonna get all the details in there, and try to assess what is that concentrate essence of the project that is that you have to get across. And find the best story to tell in order to get that message across. So that's the first challenge. I think that next, the second thing I thought of is the fact that you mentioned introverts and extroverts. So most academics are used to working on their computer, in their lab. Of course, presentations are part of the career, but maybe not day to day of the career, but ERC here poses this challenge. But as we mentioned earlier, the ERC also gives you an opportunity to combine between writing and presenting. And in this competition, I think some might find the writing harder, and some might find the presenting harder. But here you have a chance to combine this and look at this as an opportunity. Although some people might find this presentation very, very challenging, or this face-to-face discussion on their research very frightening, it's also an opportunity for a frank discussion with scientists that are enthusiastic about research. And try to convey your passion about your research, and answer their questions, or kind of any open issues that were not covered in the application. This is your chance to answer these questions, to show them who is behind this written application. So, although it's a challenge, let's look at it as an opportunity.
Yeah, that's a nice exit. Famous last words.
I hope not.
Now, Yasmin, I'm just going to land the plane here before we say goodbye to the listeners. So, dear listeners, I hope you have found this informative and instructive as a guide towards how to prepare yourself and run the ERC interview. That was the purpose of this. Now, if you find this interesting, you will definitely find more interesting stuff on my platform, thegrant.eu. This is where I have all my podcast episodes. So if you go in there, you'll find a lot on ERC. I will put a link to the ERC section that I have, where you have lots more of information on how to prepare proposals and so on for the ERC. And while you're in there, if you have any sympathy at all with what I'm doing here, do subscribe to my email list. This is how you grow as an independent podcaster. So thanks in advance for that. And finally, connect with me on LinkedIn and go and like my the grant page on LinkedIn. This is where the fun happens. This is where the flow is. This is where this is where I like things. This is where I comment. This is also where I throw up my marketing on episodes, and it's also where I pick up a lot of my guests. So don't be shy. If you do have a message or would like to share anything with my dear listeners, feel free to reach out. This happens a lot. Yeah, that's it. Yasmin, thank you so much.
Thank you, Niels. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been very nice for on the last day of the year 2024.
Yes, let's hope for better things to come.
And yeah,
for a good year.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful New Year's Eve, Yasmin, and let's say goodbye to the dear listeners. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant. All the Grant episodes have their own site on the Grant website. You'll find the link in the episode notes where you listen to your podcast. On the site for these 2 episodes, you'll find a link to Yasmine's personal LinkedIn site. Further, there are links to my ERC site as well to the Enspire Science knowledge platform on ERC. Next week, the Grant moves into the gender discussion. I have invited the wonderful Anne-Charlotte Schubert into the virtual podcast studio for talk about gender issues in the funding world, a topic that many of you have requested the Grant to pick up. We look forward to that. Don't forget to leave a comment on LinkedIn posts for my Communication Shorts episodes. There is a The Grant mark in the pot for the best comment. See you next week.